we're going to go through today, and I'm actually going to try a live demo about, I don't know that you can see this, why we set up these chatbots. Our chatbot, we created this because I live on the East Coast. My developers and my testers are either on the West Coast or in other parts of the world. And so they wanted to do things when theoretically my day had ended, theoretically. Uh, if, if they texted me, I answered. And so the whole point of this was to get me out of the way. I was the problem. I was the bottleneck. And so the chatbots are designed to replace some of the tasks I did using an interface that they were comfortable with. I tried to teach them JCL to do SMPE. These people had decades worth of zOS experience and were afraid to touch SMPE. They could write JCL, they just didn't want to touch SMPE. I tried to give them training on here's how you shut down a system in IPL. They were reluctant to follow the steps, were afraid it wouldn't come back up. So I had seen a team out of China had done something with a chatbot. I couldn't get it to work, but I knew if they could do it once, we could repeat it. And so we were able to repeat this. And we started with the Watson chatbot. And we've reached the point now where we use RackF pass tickets for our Watson chatbot, and we're going to change that to our Slack bot as well, so that at no time will a user enter their password when coming in through a bot, but they are the same person, SSH, PCOM, host on demand, a chatbot, it's the same user ID. So you don't get additional authority by coming in from a different way. It's all the same thing. Now what this actually looks like, if this is going to work, and it's not, I wonder if I can stop my presentation. Have to stop my, okay, let me jump back over here. Of course it would not work for me. Escape. And we go totally dark. Okay, we'll stay here. All right, so this is how the bot works. And I didn't show you this, but this goes through our W3 authentication. So this is the corporate authentication. It knows who I am when I come in here. It knows that I have verified that I am who I say I am. Yes. Can we turn off the lights? Okay. So right now, today, I have to give it my user ID. We're going to change that. I've learned about a week, 10 days ago, how we would do this without giving a user ID, and we can still associate this entry to this user ID. But I wasn't about to implement that before I come to share and show you guys this demo. And so one of the things we can do here is we can check an APAR. And this is what we're going to query. 6268. Yes, 2. Does it work that way? See if it comes back. Yep. All right, so I knew the doc APAR. I didn't know the APAR number itself. And so the way this bot works is it go out and looks at SMPE, and it tells you, here's the version of the APAR installed. Now, when we write this information back, we change the Julian date that SMPE gives you into a Gregorian date. That's because I can do the conversion for about 6 weeks, and then after 6 weeks in a new year, I'm lost doing that math. So we changed this around so that you can see when it came in. And I got this. I got it like 2 days before I installed it, and I know it's not installed on another system. So I'm going to install. I'll do it over here on the Slack bot. This is our other bot. The chat bot is conversational. The Slack bot is command line driven. Install BA62669. MES3 root enable 78 CDS. So let's try that. See what it comes back and tells us. I did this a week ago and it actually worked. So we'll see. And this is the part I hate, is waiting and watching. And the answer is it's not going to come back. Okay. Let's try it again. Install BA666266 on MES3. The comment in there, we keep track of all the maintenance we put on in our broadcast messages, and so this is designed to, yeah, okay, so it came back. I typed it in wrong. We keep a list in our broadcast messages of all the additional maintenance we put on. We do that because our team is so dispersed, and we use the broadcast messages to communicate with each other, so the developers can see my fixes on this system. And the way this bot works is it comes back and it tells you, you updated Nucleus and LPA, you need to IPL. So we'll jump over here to the chat bot and we'll say IPL MES3. And this is going to drive a task on another system to do the IPL. It's going to do the shutdown and the IPL of this system. Now, our systems do not run with any automation product. We don't have Tivoli, we don't have NetView, this is vanilla zOS. This is zOS procs, this is zOS parmlibs. We didn't do anything special about this. This is just zOS managing zOS. Let's see if the IPL is going to work. It's supposed to come back and tell me there's somebody using it. It did. Look at that. It had to not look. Don't look, Mom. It says somebody's using it. So when we set this up, we designed it so that we won't IPL a system out from somebody. We can force that, and I'll do that here. But this is designed to prevent you from trashing the system that somebody's using. And it looks to see who's using the system. And it looks with zOS commands. It's not running any change or anything. This is just zOS commands doing it. And what you'll see here is he's going to run another task to shut down this system and then bring it back up. And it comes all the way down. We don't do the ZOED, but JES2 comes down clean in this environment. So this is not a brutal shutdown of the system. It's cleanly shut down all the tasks running and then IPL it back. And we can even change the IPL address using this bot. The change of the IPL address, and none of this stuff uses the HMC. So none of the people using the bot have access to the HMC. This is all zOS parms that we're using to manage the IPL address and flip the IPL address. Now, why are there two? You guys probably haven't seen this, but I have gotten stuff from the developers in the past that won't IPL. And I put it on my system and it won't come back up. And so I will have two systems. I was a customer for a long time before I came to IBM. And I will always have two ways out of every problem. If you give me something that won't work, I can still bring my system back up, even if you didn't do what you were supposed to do. And so I always have an out. In fact, I'll probably have 3 or 4, because I trust me to make mistakes as many as somebody else will. And so what this is going to do, I don't know that you can see this over here on the right, but it will actually shut down the system, and it recognizes that it's left the sysplex. And it's now going to come back up. Now, we're IPLing blind here. I'm not watching the console. We're not scraping any messages. It's just IPLing the system. And we're hoping that it comes back. And if it doesn't, I'll go look. But since I'm standing in front of you showing you this, we're hoping it comes back. And it actually does. And it varies the system out of their plex, replies to the message, and then waits for it to rejoin. And then once it rejoins, it'll recognize JES2's active, and then it'll recognize TSO's active. And so it'll tell you that the system went down and came back. And it takes somewhere, if I'm not showing it to anybody, it takes 2.5 to 4 minutes. If I'm showing it to somebody, it takes eternity. uh, you know. So, but once I gave this to my developers, when we did the chatbot first, once I gave it to the developers, they're like, I like the Slack bot. I don't like SSH command line interface to TSO, but I like command line interface to zOS. I like to type in one command and have it do something for me. Uh, and so we set up tasks to solve problems that they had. And that's what this was. We were solving a problem, and the problem was me. Uh, it irritates my wife to no end. And if I get a text at 8 o'clock and I'll say, well, I'll just be a minute, let me just do this one thing. It'll just take a minute. Um, and now the downside to this is people can do this from anywhere at any time. If you get a text, and I will tell you this, if you get a text on Sunday afternoon and your spouse asks you, are you texting somebody at work? Don't say probably not. Uh, that, that is not the response. That you just be honest and yes, it's somebody working. I can tell you from personal experience, probably not. It was not the correct response. Uh, and and I can also tell you that nonverbal sarcasm is much more effective than verbal sarcasm. Much more effective. And if you recognize that and point that out to your spouse, you may be eating out for a week, and you may be picking the restaurants. I can just. So if you learn these things, just keep them to yourselves. Uh, so I don't know that you can see this on the right over here, but it actually shows you. We checked to see if the system could be IPL'd. We IPL'd, or we buried it, shut down everything, buried it out of the Plex, recognized it left the Plex, recognized it was back in the Plex, recognized JES2 was up, and recognized TSO was up. And that is, what, 7:29:45 to, I can't read the times on that, but it's not long. And this is just zOS. This is not any automation product. This is not any automation tool. This is just zOS managing zOS. Um, Now, I told you this. This is what it actually looks like. This is a graphical representation to explain how all piece parts work. And this blue box here is actually uh, Linux, Red Hat Linux, running on a Z15 native LPAR. So this is Linux running on a Z15. It comes into Watson, JSON over Cloud Functions, now to our Node.js app running on our Linux. It generates the JCL, sends the JCL over to the zOS system via FTP, and RAC have pass tickets, so there's no user ID. That was a big deal to us because it was FTP, and it sends the information back, and it goes back up to the user. And you've actually seen how that works. And I installed an APAR and IPL the system. The changing the IPL address is just a different command. It's IPL the system from alternate. We're not real complicated or sophisticated in this. This is what our Watson chatbot looks like. This is what our Slack bot looks like. After we did the Watson chatbot, we changed to Slack. Some of you guys remember that. And we learned that we could do some of the same things with Slack. As I told you 10 days ago, we figured out how to do it with RACF so that all of this coming in through Slack still runs under the same ID. But we're using the same processes and the same techniques, just two different bots. They're both running on Linux, but one's interacting with zOS itself and one is interacting through the Slack app. Now, because it's the Slack app, you can do this from your phone. You can install maintenance, you can IPL a system, you can issue TSO commands or zOS commands from your phone. That is an interesting concept. I've IPL'd a system riding down the interstate in the passenger seat using my laptop, but I had never done it from my phone before, but it actually works. Now, you don't get in Slack, you don't get the communication back that you saw in the chatbot that shows you what's going on as it shuts down in IPLs, but you can still check. But this is how it all works. It's all JSON. It's this blue piece right here. There's a young lady by the name of Kamvu Pham and a gentleman by the name of Trin Nguyen who understand all this. Now, when we started almost 3 years ago, they didn't understand any of this. But I asked them if they wanted to try, and they said yes. So we've learned over the past 2.5 years how to do this stuff. and it works really well. Now, they are the brains behind these pieces, the blue pieces. Me learning Python and I can code some in Java, but the Node.js, that's like somebody coming out of college trying to learn JCL. I understand that mind block, that difficulty of making that change. JCL, I can code, I can copy and modify all day long. Question? Yes. From zLinux, we're IPL and traditional zOS. Now, we're doing that through a started task running on another system in that same LPAR. So it's just the zLinux running a task on starting another task on another system in the same sysplex. That's how that works. Yes, it can do anything you want. One of the other things we do in here, and I will show you this. These are things we've taught our bots to do. This is a big deal. It's the same user ID. Don't think because you're using a different interface, you're going to get a different access. You're going to get the same thing, and I'll tell you that again and again. You'll get the same authority. It's just all the same. It's just same user ID, so you don't get anything different. But you can list APARs. You can actually email the APARs. Our chatbot. Yeah. Okay. Because we didn't know how. The question was, why didn't we go directly to zOS? We were learning along the way, and this was our early morning and late night job. And this, I will tell you this, but I didn't ask permission to do this. We just did it, and then we asked after we proved it could work. So this was never a project with assigned resources. This was just people trying an idea. No, the commands are on zLinux. The results are coming back already formatted in a JSON format that the zLinux can understand, the JSON can read and manage. So all our work over on zOS prepares for what it's going to give back to Linux. And SMPE is a big deal. You saw the SMPE install in apply date. That was a parsing that was done on zOS side.
How do you handle hold actions?
We are test. We are end of the line test, so we ignore them. That's just the way we do it. Like, my systems are end of the line test. I will let anybody do anything over here, and I'm serious. They can issue RACF commands. They can change parmlib. They can install maintenance. They can do whatever they want. They're tests. They're designed to be broken, and when they break them, I fix them. And so I just ignore it. I don't have the bandwidth to deal with the hold action. If there's something that they need to do, they're gonna need to make sure that's done for what they're testing. Okay.
Hi, Kevin.
Hey,
Paul
Paul.
Newton.
Yeah.
Good to see you. So you don't ever have to reset passwords because you're using the pass tickets for the
Yes.
developers?
Yes, we don't have to reset passwords from here.
Did
Now,
you
they have to reset their own, but we're just using the pass tickets and their ID.
If you want a technique for if somebody forgets their password and resetting the password, we've got one. If you want
Okay,
it.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, the RACF pass tickets was new to us. We didn't know that. The number of things we didn't know doing this was a long, long list. And we learned as we went. But we can actually, when somebody installs the APAR from the chatbot, it'll actually email the results to the user if they request. Actually, it emails it to me, so I know they touched my system. But they can have it emailed to themselves, so they can say, yes, I really did. I can record. I have hard copy information, say, yes, I installed this APAR before I sent it to the customer, or this PTF, whatever. Now, anybody can do this. It's not restricted to somebody that has a specific skill, and my developers love it. Go ahead.
Do you think I can use it to IPL production because we have specific scripts?
Is it production ready? You want to answer that question, Frank? uh, this is actually, this was a prototype we did, and then we showed it to people in IBM, and they said, that's great, that's cool, it doesn't fit into our, it doesn't fit into our,
Yeah, no would be the answer.
knows the answer. I was trying to be polite about that, you know. I was going to tell you no without saying no, but no, it's. Now this is the. I will tell you that I have been volunteered to write a white paper, a blog post to explain how I did this. So if you send me an email, and it's at the end, my email's at the end of the presentation. If you send me an email, I'll send you that link to that blog post.
Yeah, you mentioned before that you've got the two different ways in, right? The
Yes.
Slack bot and the chat bot. Is you said they prefer to use the Slack bot?
Yes.
Is that for everything, or?
They will use it to check what's on the system. They will use it to install maintenance, and they will use it to IPL. They prefer to use the chatbot. Now, the benefit to that is I get the notification when they use the Slack bot. I can see that real time. The benefit. It's not a benefit as Peg notices that I notice what's going on. Peg's my wife. If she notices, then it can go sideways quick.
That blog post will be an article on
Yeah.
in our media. Sorry, I'm hearing myself on Medium.com in the digital magazine called Therapod. So keep your eyes out.
Yeah, there will be a post there. I have people encouraging me to write that. Pardon me? Yeah, me either. Yeah, but so the thought process behind all this, and these are things I've shown you all this. Now, one of the things, because you're not using the HMC is not updated for the last IPL address used. You need to be aware of that, because if they're going to power off the processor and power it back up, it's going to use the last address in the HMC. So we actually wrote a task to go out there and gather all the information to show you in this sysplex, here's where everything was IPL from. So you don't have to go to each system and look. So we can record that and send it to the guy who's powering it up and tell him IPL from this address. I don't care what's in the HMC, IPL from this address. You can send a message to a Slack user. You can send an email, you can send a TSO, pretty much whatever you can think of now you can do. Now, our team is responsible for testing DASD. That's what we do. We test hardware and software related to DASD. People need test resources. They used to come to me and say, I need this kind of DASD, this size, I need this many. They pointed out that was a bottleneck. I was slowing down their work. So we have an SQL database, and on this same Linux server, this bot can interact with that MySQL database, and people can get resources they need or give them back. So it interacts with different operating systems, different platforms from one bot. That's a big deal. And I haven't done it with ZVM yet. ZVM does support RACF pass tickets. I just haven't had time to test that.
So these are all the things you've taught the chatbot already. How long did it take you to do them, and how hard is it to add?
It's
another
not hard.
skill?
Once you figure out how to do it, you can add another task in just a few minutes, because the tasks, they all do basically the same thing. You're just issuing commands, either TSO or zOS, and sending them back, sending the results back, and that's how it works. And I just one of our Cam was actually on a pervasive encryption team, and she wrote a task on this bot to check pervasive encryption readiness. So the bots are pretty much, if you can think it, we can make the bot do it. That's how the things work. It's limited by your imagination. And it truly is, because you can interact with any operating system, any platform through the bot. The bot is just a key, it's a gateway. The RACF pass tickets is the big deal. So what else do I have here? Oh, yeah, so this is what I'm telling you. We did the chat bot first, and that took almost a year to figure that out. Then once we figured out those pieces, then we could do the chat bot. The chat bot, or the Slack bot, was much easier to write because it's using the same task. It's using the same interfaces, using the same techniques. It's just coming at it a different way. And we did this so developers and testers could be more productive. They didn't need me to do work on their systems. I have a developer in New York who needs to put link decks on one of the systems, and so he was like, "I'm gonna put this link deck on an IPL," and he knows if it does an IPL, here's what you do to get out of this. So he doesn't know system stuff at all, but he trusts that if I IPL this system, it'll come back and tell me, and if it breaks, you can get out of it. He can get out of it without contacting me. The other thing is, this is using JSON and Java and web stuff, and it's all the things that attract the bright young people of today and tomorrow. I need those bright young people of today and tomorrow because I want to retire. Unlike Frank, I want to retire one day, and I need somebody that can do my work. And I need those bright young people to come in and learn zOS. But I can tell you, I have a tester in India. I got him in July of last year. He was supposedly zOS and Java trained. He was not really either one of those. We use Java. We're using Glossa for our testing, and it's just Java-based test case generation. He learns Java really easy because that understands, that's languages he can use, he knows. He learned zOS one step at a time, but was productive in just a few weeks. In just a couple of weeks, he's writing test cases, converting test cases to Java-based generation. And he's a productive team member. He doesn't have to learn TSO and SDSF and ISPF. He knows Java, and he can run this job over there and get the results back and look at it. And when he doesn't have it, when he has questions about something, I will answer his questions. Now, India is 10 and a half hours ahead of me. They ask questions at odd times. Some of those nonverbal sarcasms come in from the things I do with India at odd hours of the morning. But, as long as I make coffee before she gets up, life is good. The coffee's just got to be made. But this helps people be productive right away. And that's a big deal. They don't have to learn all of zOS in a hurry. I don't have to teach them SDSF or ISPF.
It'd be cool.
Uh-oh. Would it be cool? That's a phrase for duck.
If this was made out as open source so that people could.
We have discussed that. We were days away from doing that when we got in contact with another team that said, we want you to pause for a few weeks while we figure out the IBM direction on this. And I mean days away from putting this out. We had all the doc written up. We had everything staged and ready to go. Had gone through all the approval steps. And it's like, wait. And so we did almost open source this.
So when is that going to be cleared?
Yes, noon. It'll be done at noon. Yeah. So that's the end of my presentation. That's the end of my demo. It actually worked, and I think that's because there was that planetary conjunction yesterday, and so I got some good luck from that. But we actually have this short survey out here for some questions we'd like for you to answer.
Hey, Kevin, based on what you're doing, do you have sites for what you want to do and have the young people do beyond what you're doing today?
Yes, I do have tasks that we're getting an intern in for the summer, and I already have things lined up in my mind that I want her to do. And so I can use the skills that I know she has, and I can teach her zOS. And that's a big deal to me,
So we're using this using this to help the interns or
Yes.
the early career hires learn zOS as
Yes.
well as using all this other cool
All
technology?
the things they know. You know, they understand all this Java and JSON and all the web stuff. They know that. I don't know that. I've tried to teach myself that, but I've been doing this about as long as Frank. I've been there at 82, you know, kind of thing. And so this is my way of making the interns feel like a team member right away.
Thank
And that's
you.
a big deal. You know,
Yep.
I'm not giving them, here, you got to go learn SDSF, or you got to learn TSO, or you got to learn ISPF. Use the skills you have, and I will teach you one step at a time, zOS. So, yeah, question back there? Okay. Any thoughts, observations, comments? Then I guess I'm okay. If you could answer these few questions, I'd like to get your feedback on it. And if you want an update on when the blog post is written, send me your email, and I will email you when I get that done and approved. So I can't just write and send it out. I have to get it approved to send it out. There are people that critique my writing style. They're not fans of y'all. But if you have questions, stop by and see me. I'll answer them. I know how most of this works. The zOS side I got down pat. The other side I understand and I can do some of it, but it's a little bit more difficult for me. So that's all I've got for today. Thanks for your participation and your time.
Thank you, Kevin. Please remember to fill out your session evaluations. We do appreciate your feedback.